All right, thanks everybody for coming in, and we're going to do Defense Against the Digital Dark Arts today. We're going to start out with phones and PCs. So we're going to take a look at some of the emerging threats that we're seeing. Basically, on PCs themselves, we're going to look at email and some of the applications that everybody uses. We're going to talk a little bit about phishing, malware, viruses, ransomware, and some blackmail emails that we've seen lately. So some of the PC threats that we're going to encounter, whether you're going to see them, whether we're going to see them, I want to take a look at a little bit of data and statistics that give us a little bit of background on why some of this is actually happening, how it's happening, as well as the data behind who's actually doing it. Because a lot of the times people think that, oh, it's just hackers out there trying to get in, and that's not necessarily the case. What we know for sure using real data and stats, users such as yourself are under constant threat of attack through email. Most of it is phishing emails. We also know that if a user is phished, about 93% of the time, it is involving ransomware. That is the most prevalent form of attack in the world today. We also know that social engineering isn't just somebody walking into your office pretending to be somebody that they aren't anymore. Social engineering has gotten so much more sophisticated. Hackers are actually beginning to stalk users on social media for intelligence. They might call in, impersonating a client or a vendor. Maybe they're using right to know to gain information. Anything that you can truly think of as a way to obtain additional information is what they are using anymore. They may even begin with follow-up emails based on information that has been given through a phishing email. Then you'll see email address spoofing, making it look like the email has come from somebody else. The social engineering list literally can go on, and I'm not going to drone on too much about it, but it's something that you need to be very aware of, that it's not just somebody impersonating someone else in your office anymore. The other thing that we all need to accept and realize is if you are picking up the phone and answering emails, you are making security decisions every day that affect your organization as a whole. And if you haven't thought about it that way before, please start to. Doesn't matter if it's you, it doesn't matter if it's somebody on your staff. If they're answering the phone, if they're answering emails, they are making security decisions every day. As far back as about 2 years ago, 90% of cyber attacks began with phishing. And again, we're just talking about simple emails. How can I get information? Getting information from users gave hackers some additional attack vectors. Now that they have the information, what can they do with it? We also know that some of the top reasons people are fooled by these phishing emails are simple curiosity. I want to know what this thing is that someone has emailed me about, so I'm going to click on the link. Fear. I don't know what this is, or there is an urgency about this email. This looks official. I might get in trouble if I don't click on it. So they click on it. There's also the urgency factor. An email comes in that says, I need to do this in a certain amount of time. Or they're too busy to actually read the email thoroughly. And when that happens, they can click on a link and infect themselves as well. Now, I saw somebody pop in just a couple minutes ago. There is a chat box on the bottom of your screen. If you have a question as we're going through, feel free to pop up the chat box, type in your question. Dave's actually looking at the chat box, so he can answer the question as we go through if you need to do that. Okay, the only other things that I want to mention here is that 90% of successful data breaches are due to humans giving out information freely. 90%. There's only 10% of data breaches that aren't started by humans. And we also know that 90% of all breaches are started by a phishing email. So when you see that, the Facebook has been hacked or LinkedIn has been hacked or something like that, it's not because they've actually been hacked. It's not some guy in their mom's basement sitting down writing code that's hacking into these places. It's because they've gotten information from somebody else and were able to obtain a way into the system because of human error. So all these stats and data are great, but what kinds of attacks are we actually dealing with? So let's take a look at that. So I talked a little bit about phishing previously. Phishing is sending an email to a recipient to induce the recipient to reveal information. Doesn't matter what information it is. It might be a password. It might be a credit card number. It might be other personally identifying information, but it's information. They're after something. I'm going to talk a little bit about malware, whether it's in ads or other places. Malware is any type of a malicious program, which can include adware, spyware, different types of viruses, might be pop-up ads or toolbars in browsers, all of those types of things. That's all malware. It kind of all gets grouped into one big bowl there. I'm going to talk a little bit about viruses. Viruses are different from malware in that they are a program that is specifically designed to replicate itself and alter the way that the PC functions or stop it from working. The difference between a virus and malware generally is trying to monetize itself in some way, shape, or form. In other words, somebody has perpetrated this to make money, and a virus is completely different. The only thing it is designed to do is affect your PC. There's no real monetary value in it. I'm going to talk a little bit about ransomware as well, which is a different form of malware. What this stuff does is it prevents the user from accessing their data and demands payment to regain access. There are a couple different types of it. One of them is the scareware, which is the tech support scam. You'll get a big screen that comes up and says, your computer has been locked, or there's a virus on your machine, call this number in order to get it fixed. That's scareware. That's actually ransomware in one way, shape, or form. There's another one called a screen locker. Those look like the FBI warning. The FBI is after you. You have to pay $400 to get it unlocked or whatever the case is. And then there's also one called crypto wall, crypto locker. What those do is they encrypt every single file that you or your PC has access to. And then payment gets you the unlock code. And I don't know how many times I've heard people say, well, what prevents them from just taking my money and leaving? Well, strangely enough, the crypto folks are all about customer service. You get your unlock code. If you didn't, people would stop paying the ransom. So they just give you your unlock code after you pay it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about blackmail emails as well. Those things are sent to a recipient claiming that they have evidence of you doing something. Generally, it is involving some type of porn, and if you don't pay them in Bitcoin, they will release a video of you that doesn't actually exist, but it preys on people's guilty conscience, and again, it's just a way to monetize things. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about some of the fraud and scams that are going around right now. There's the old-fashioned Nigerian scam. The Nigerian prince wants to give you money. There's the secret shopper, mystery shopper one. There's all kinds of different scams that are available. So we're going to go through a couple of those as well that we've seen fairly recently. So let's dive in and take a look at those. First one I want to take a look at is phishing. This is one of them. This is a DocuSign one that we saw not too awful long ago. The DocuSign phish is designed to grab credentials. So this way they're looking for your either Office 365 credentials. Sometimes they're looking for your Gmail credentials, but basically they're looking for your email credentials in some way, shape, or form. And I'm sure a couple of you thinking, well, why would they want my email? I don't have anything good in there. But a lot of people do. A lot of people carry a lot of information inside of their email. They're also, your contact list is worth a lot of money to the right people. So think about that for a second, and all the people that you have in your contact list, that's actually worth a lot of money to somebody, and they are after that. So anytime you see an email that comes in that doesn't look quite official, absolutely be skeptical of it. Take a look at it. Make sure that it's actually coming from who you're expecting it. If you even think that it might be fake, call the person that sent it to you. Check it with them. Make sure that it's a real email before you actually click on anything. And obviously, if you've clicked on something and it's prompting you to log in somewhere, chances are that that was a phishing email. Do not give out your credentials. Again, call the person that sent you the email. Make sure that it actually is a fake. I'm going to talk a little bit about malware and ads. For anybody that is still using a browser that doesn't have an ad blocker in it, please let us know. We'll get one installed for you. Malware itself, as I've mentioned before, is any type of software designed to cause damage or collect data. The ad-based ones deliver an ad to the user. The idea is that the user will either click on the ad, or the malware person that has sent this out hopes that they're using a browser that has a known exploit in it, such as Internet Explorer with Flash installed to the machine so it can exploit Flash. Then what will happen is it will redirect the user to a website where it can install malware via the exploit, or even better, trick the user into installing it for them. The hacker is happy. The user is happy for just a few seconds. Then they realize all they got was a toolbar that has hijacked their homepage and created 400 pop-ups, which isn't all that exciting. But that's generally how malware works. I'm going to talk briefly about viruses as well. Viruses are designed to replicate themselves and impact the performance of PCs. The viruses that solely impact performance and do not have another motive are fewer and further between these days. If there is no money in it, there's no point in doing it. Most attacks have a monetary component to them in this day and age. A straight up virus doesn't. So it's just malicious code for malicious code's sake. And unless you have somebody that is their only motivation is to create damage, you're not going to see a virus anymore. So ransomware has been a game changer in our world. Ransomware is another type of malware. This is type that demands payment. The old style of locking the password to the PC was too easily thwarted, and that's the Department of Justice one that you see back there. All that did is it would change the user's password and then demand payment to basically give you the password back. That was easy enough to just simply reboot the PC, log in as the administrator, change the password, no big deal. But then a new variant came out just a couple of years ago, and this one was called CryptoLocker. It is designed to encrypt every single file that that particular user had access to. So if for some reason I would get an email in, it looks like a good email, has a link in it, seems to send me where I think it should go. I click on that link. It starts the crypto at that point. Every single file on my network that I would have access to, it would encrypt and make it completely unusable. The only way to get rid of that issue is to, one, have a really good backup so that you run the backup, everything comes right back to where you started from, or you have to pay the ransom. So many people have been paying these ransoms that the people that do the ransomware keep making new variants of it because people will pay it. So the way around it is to have a comprehensive backup. I'll talk a little bit about blackmail emails as well. By all means, feel free to read this one. I laugh at it every single time I do. This is one that I actually got myself. So the email came in, I looked at it, I kind of chuckled. The spot that's blacked out had one of my passwords in it. LinkedIn got hacked a few years ago, and one of their data breaches was the usernames and passwords. So it had my LinkedIn password in there. How did I know it was my LinkedIn password? Well, one of the things with passwords, and I'm going to go over this, I believe not next week, but the week after in privacy and passwords, is that you should always have a different password for every site that you log into. In this case, I started my LinkedIn one with IN, so I knew exactly which password that it was in case something like this ever happened. So this came in, I read through it, I'm like, oh, this is freaking brilliant, I love it. So what it is just a blackmail email that says, this is what's gonna happen. It had like a list of a couple of contacts, and it was 2 or 3 people in my LinkedIn contacts, because of course they could pull that data off of my LinkedIn account kind of thing, or they could see who I was attached to, so no big deal there, could care less. But it was just kind of funny in that people would actually fall for this if they felt guilty enough about something that they've done. So whether it's an email like this or one that's done a different way, I've seen one that was a hitman had a hit out on someone, and they contact the person that the hit supposedly is on and say, hey, this person has a hit out on you, but for just X amount of money, I'll call off the hit. You just need to pay me. So it's just a matter of preying on people's guilt and conscience. Anytime somebody's demanding something in Bitcoin, chances are it's completely fake. If ever you have a question, please let us know. We're happy to take a look at something, because some of these are pretty darn sophisticated. I've also seen a couple variants that are dating scams, where somebody may have actually either gone on a date or been on a webcam with someone. Compromising photos or videos are used to extort money from the other person. Sometimes it is text messages. Blackmail and extortion are illegal in the United States, so if it's actually a person that's doing this, by all means, do not delete what is going on. Stop any conversation. Call your local police department. Make sure that they take care of that for you. Simple emails are one thing, an actual person, completely different. All right, along that same line, we've got some fraud and scams. Fraud and scams are rampant still. Most are geared either to getting at your credit card number, other personal information, or both. There's a couple different types of scams. One of them is called an advance fee scam. We know them all as the Nigerian prince emails. If you give them a small amount of money, millions can be yours, which is kind of like the old Wimpy from Popeye, I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. There's also the charity or affinity fraud. These play on your emotions and are typically religious themed, where they find something that you may both have in common. And most often they direct you to a real looking website to donate money and of course to steal your credit card number. There's also the standard job scam. They promise to transfer funds to you and you purchase something and send it somewhere else. Now, whether that's we're going to hire you, but before we hire you, we need to make sure that you buy yourself a desk or a computer or whatever, and then we need you to buy another one of those, and I need you to send it to this person and we'll reimburse you once you're hired, and yada, yada, yada. And a lot of people fall for those. There's also the update your payment method. You'll see that one up on the screen, which is the Netflix one. Hey, your payment's been declined. Your credit card, for whatever reason, didn't work or is outdated. Please click here to update your payment method. Please make sure you don't click on those emails. Be sure that you actually go out, log into your account, double check it there. Don't actually use the email. There's also elder fraud, which is usually for identity theft purposes. The elder folks generally will give out personally identifiable information faster than we will. So watch your friends, your neighbors, your parents, that kind of thing. Just let them know that should somebody call, should somebody email, never give them information that they're looking for until you verify that they actually need it for some reason. All right, so that pretty much covers a lot of the things that we're seeing on PCs. I want to get into phones as well, because there have been a ton more of new things that we have seen on mobile phones lately. Phones have evolved into carry with you computers. Malware has evolved as well to target these devices. Your mobile phone are simply another source of data and confidential information that any hacker can mine. Android users are generally at a greater risk compared to some of the other providers like Apple, but all have the ability to be compromised. So the same types of malware that we saw on PCs are used for mobile attacks. The same attack vectors are used, but hackers are also using specific apps to target data. Perhaps your bank has an app. It's widely known and used by hackers that you can grab any of those apps, throw a little bit of extra code to it, re-upload it to the app store just like you were the bank, and now that particular app has a little writer app on it essentially that steals your data. So you have to be careful with those. We also have fake calls and text. I'm sure you've all gotten a gazillion of those. Contact list scraping, which is used for additional phishing attacks that you're going to see in your email. I'm going to get into that in depth a little bit more, but basically a lot of apps are able to scrape data off of your contact list. And then apps themselves are your primary delivery mechanism for malware on a mobile phone. So things that you want to think about, you want to make sure that you start to secure your device if you haven't already. One of the best ways to do that is to secure the actual operating system by keeping your device updated. You also need to make sure that even though the operating system is updated, the apps themselves are updated as well. You want to have some type of mobile security running on your phone. If you don't have one currently, let us know. We'll help you either figure out one to purchase, extend what you already have inside of your office to your phone. But either way, we want to make sure that your phone is secure. We also want to make sure that you have a passcode. For those of you who use Apples, as soon as you put a passcode on your phone, it'll actually encrypt your data on your phone. For those of you that have Android phones, it takes a little bit more than just a passcode on it. So having a passcode is fantastic. That means that if I drop my phone, I lose my phone, somebody can't just pick it up and have access to all of my data right away because I have a passcode on it. They need to figure that out first. But the Android phone itself, you have to actually encrypt it manually so that the data is encrypted. And if you haven't done that and have an Android phone, again, talk to one of us, ask one of us to show you how to do it, and we're more than happy to do so. Make sure that you only ever get an app from the Apple App Store or Google Play. If it isn't from one of those places, it is not an approved app. Whether it's an Apple app or an Android app, it actually has to come from the store to be an approved app. The chances of it being a good app improve exponentially as long as you get it from the store. And that means that there just isn't malware attached to it, as long as you're getting it from the store. And then the other thing that we want to take a look at is make sure that you are not giving any of your phone apps access to your data. And I'm going to qualify that without good reason. Some of the apps do need access to your data, whether it be your contact list, whether it be your GPS, whether it be your camera. Some of them need that to function, but not all of them do. So I'm going to go into that a little bit more in depth as well. So a couple more stats, just because it's kind of cool to look at charts and graphs every now and then. We know that malware is picked up in numerous locations. We know that the most common places are apps and websites on your phone. Social sites, be they Facebook or a website that's social, and apps also for those are the #1 offender. Business and economy sites are second, mostly because of the ads that they are delivering. And then the third is shopping, and you can see that it drops off sharply It's only 8% come from shopping, surprisingly. That used to be a much bigger percentage. 1 in 3 mobile apps are actually considered malicious apps. So I want you to think about the last app that you installed on your phone. What did it ask access for? Did you ask yourself why that game needed access to your contacts? And if you didn't, you absolutely should have. The other thing I want you to think about is I'm sure everybody has seen Angry Birds or has heard Angry Birds or have seen someone playing Angry Birds. It's everybody's favorite bird flinging game, right? It was actually used by MI6. It was used by the CIA. It was used by a bunch of different spy agencies to pull user data and to see who was talking to who, because everyone let it have access to their contacts. Most free games are not free. The price of the game is your data that you are letting it have access to. Because a lot of people don't think when they install an app and it says, can I have access to that? Can I have access to that? And everybody just clicks yes. I want you also to think about that flashlight app you may have downloaded to your phone. It's really great. I can see under my desk now. I can see all kinds of stuff because, you know, who needs an extra flashlight when I've got one on my phone? Almost every single one of those free flashlight apps scrape your contact list. So now that we've thought about that, let's talk a little bit about fake calls and texts, and I'll come back around to that contact list one more time in a little bit. Everybody's gotten a fake call, whether it's the robocall from the IRS that's not really the IRS, or any other government entity that requires you to call them, or they'll have you arrested, or the local police are on their way, or whatever. Obviously, that's not a thing. Any actual caller that claims the same thing, still not a thing. Microsoft is never going to call you. None of the big tech companies are ever going to call you. They don't care about you. They really only want your money. Just keep sending them money. We're good. If there's an unknown number that is calling you and you answer it and it's just dead air, do not make a sound. Don't scream, don't yell, don't blow a whistle, don't do anything. If you make zero sound, it will hang up and it'll actually delete your number off your list. By interacting with them, they'll know that that is a good known number and your calls will increase. So any caller that calls up and asks you to get your utility bill, I've had, I don't know how many of these lately, ask them why. And if they won't tell you exactly why they are wanting that information, it is because they are wanting you to agree to switching to a different company and your bill will increase astronomically. So make sure that you don't do that. I've had, I think, 5 or 6 of those in the last couple of months. So they are starting to ramp up as well. They get very annoyed with you when you keep asking them why. And then the other thing that you want to get very aware of is if any caller asks if you can hear them, do not say yes. A lot of times they are waiting for you to say yes. They will actually record you saying yes, and whatever it is that they called you to sign up for or agree to, they will use that as your acquiescence to that. So just be careful on that. Spam texts are coming out now. You can see one that I got not too awful long ago. Obviously, that's not a real website. That is literally a link to please download more spam onto or more malware down onto my phone. I've gotten everything from mortgages to cars to Russian brides. Apparently, I need to get married again. I don't know why that's a thing, but point being is, one, they want you to reply so that they know they have a good number, which means that they can keep sending you things. So don't reply to them, don't cancel them, don't do anything, just delete it, block the number. Secondly, if they can get you to click on the link, it will infect your phone, and it's going to infect it with mobile malware, which is the last thing that you want. The first couple iterations were designed to show ads. Then it was to truly make money. A lot of times it can pull down a program onto your phone, and it will start sending out text to their service that actually charge money for each text, and that's how they make money off of your phone. So that's one way to do it. Another way is if you click on the link, you can download an app to your phone, which can be anything from a phishing window that overlaps one of your actually known good apps that you have. And we've also seen ransomware show up on mobile platforms. So just be very careful with any of those links. Don't accidentally click on them. Just delete the spam message, block the number, do whatever you need to do, but do not reply to them. So I promised I would get back around to the mobile contacts, and here we are. If you are an Apple user, if you go into your settings, general privacy, you will see exactly what apps on your phone have access to your contacts. Now again, some apps will need to have access to your contact list in order to work properly. That's normal. So many times when we install an app, it wants access to other parts of your phone. Maybe it's your camera, maybe it's your GPS, maybe it's your contacts. Doesn't matter what it is. Some apps needs access to do that. Totally fine. If it's a known good app, you've read the terms and conditions. The terms and conditions will tell you what the app is going to do with your information. You're good to go, as long as you're okay with it. If you haven't read the terms, you don't know where the information is going, cut off the app's access to your contacts specifically. Your contact information is scraped from your device by many of the apps and other fun game things, and then that contact list can be used against you in phishing attacks. If you keep access open to these apps, they can watch who you mail frequently and target the phishing attack. Over a few months, they will actually know who you call, who you email, who you text with. The apps will know how your contacts all know each other based on who emails who and who you're getting email from and how often. To give you an example, we recently changed our ticketing system. Some of you have seen the new tickets. Within 1 day of a user receiving a reply to a ticket from the new system, replying to it from their phone, the ticket system got a fake phishing invoice, one of those, hey, pay your invoice kind of things, from that particular user. And I think it was within 24 hours. It was really fast how that worked. So it is extremely important that you know exactly what apps that you have given access to, what the app does, and what it's doing with your data. And if you're in any way, shape, or form uninformed about what that is, please make sure you take a look in the area of your phone that will tell you, those two screens tell you exactly where to access that information at. Cut off any app that has access to your contacts that you don't think that it should. And believe it or not, we are to the end of the webinar. That cool little QR code there, that's actually my contact information. Please make sure that if you're taking my contact information, you have cleaned your phone first, because I would prefer to not get additional spam. But that will give you my email, my phone number, all of that good stuff. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to unmute everybody. I think. There we go. Everybody should be unmuted. Does anybody have any questions? And I'm not hearing any questions. I'm not seeing any in the chat box. So I'm going to pop over to the last slide and thank everybody for hanging out, learning a little bit about cybersecurity. We're going to be doing this again next week, same time and place. Next week, I'm going to cover scams, malware, and other bugs, which is just the name of it. I'm going to go into a bit more depth with the hows and whys of all of this works. I'm going to explain how the Internet of Things is playing a part in cyber attacks. And when I talk about the Internet of Things, I'm not just talking about that cool little doorbell. I'm talking about um, police vehicles. I'm talking about Wi-Fi units. I'm not just talking about fridges and doorbells. Um, I'm also going to talk about state-sponsored attacks and why you need multi-factor authentication, especially on any site where your personally identified information is used. If you're lucky, I'll even have a couple more riveting charts, graphs, and statistics. So there's 2 more QR codes on there. If you don't subscribe to our newsletter or like us on Facebook, go ahead and click on those. That will get you right to those spots. And that's pretty much it. Thanks again, and I will see you next week.